You've got to manage expectations in ROCD. Okay, so before OCD latches, okay, we might be in a relationship where we feel really good. We have lots of feelings of love. You got that chemistry, those feelings of essentially being high, those feelings of being in love, which is what it feels like at times. Okay, and we use that as a metric, as a benchmark for our relationships going forward. Maybe we're quite young and we really enjoy those feelings of love, and we use that as a benchmark, right? So we need to be reaching that certain level for our relationship in the future, for other future relationships if we break up with our partner, right? But that's unfortunately when OCD and ROCD is in there, is latched on, it's not really going to work like that. Okay, so when the thing is with OCD, when it latches and comes in, our life is all of a sudden very different. Our life has changed essentially. And that's not saying that we're never going to go back to a feeling baseline state of peace, but we're not going to be able to have or do the same things that we were doing before OCD latch and set in for the time being. Okay, because if OCD latches in and you're trying to feel feelings of love, that's a compulsion. If OCD latches and sets in and you're trying to feel attraction to the opposite sex and OCD's in there, that's not going to work. It might have worked before OCD set in, right? But in the complex mosaic and tapestry of the mind where OCD is gone in there and suddenly latched on, those things aren't necessarily attainable in the moment, right? But we think that they are, and we still carry on doing the behaviors that we did before OCD set in, and we get into trouble because things are different now, because our reality's changed. And that's just a fact of the matter. That's just life, unfortunately. People's lives change in a moment, maybe in a car accident, maybe being diagnosed with a certain illness, maybe losing a loved one. So life is always suddenly changing around us, and we have to sort of adjust and adapt to that as we see fit. Okay, so with ROCD, it's so important that we lower our expectations. We aren't going to be feeling love like we must have, like we would have been beforehand. I'm not saying you're never going to feel love again and there's not going to be moments, but when OCD is in there, those feelings of love are going to be toned right down. We're going to be feeling numb. Okay, and this is when accepting we have OCD and a doubting disorder becomes very, very important. So it's about managing expectations with that. You can still have a relationship without feeling these high feelings of love, without feeling that intense chemistry. Lots of relationships aren't necessarily built on just the feeling alone. Lots of relationships are built on acts of love, not compulsively, but doing nice things for each other, going out, intimacy, looking after a family together. So you got to think like, I need to let go of this idea that I need love to be there 24/7, because it's just not going to be there. And whether you're single in a relationship with ROCD, yes, it is very hard not to experience that, and it's hard not to feel the way that you want to feel. You might even be feeling incapable of love, like I was, constantly Googling, how do I get these feelings back? But this is why we have to manage expectations, because we're not necessarily owed that, and things are different now. So you got to accept the lack of love. You've got to accept the disconnection and still going towards that, regardless of it, because otherwise, if you don't do that, then your relationship's going to suffer. You might avoid dating and relationships altogether. Your partner might be a bit sad or disappointed with what you're doing. They might end up dumping you, and at times it's going to feel like you're forcing yourself. You're going to feel claustrophobic. You're going to feel like you're wasting their time. You're going to feel a bit guilty for that too. But I made another video on that recently, sorry. But you're going to have to weigh all of that and then look at the irrational beliefs around that. I must experience love. I mustn't feel numb. Unfortunately, OCD teaches us that life is hard and life is not fair. We're not always going to get those things that we want. And yes, it does feel very unfair how it can just suddenly take everything away from us that we want. Those feelings of love towards our partner, even family, even friends. And it seems like all of that has just been taken in a moment. And then we're trying to do our best to get back there, and that's when OCD has all the power, because it knows that we want to get back there. Okay, so we just got to be mindful of that. Expectations with ROCD are really, really important. The relationships aren't based off love like we think we are, right? You don't really get a Hollywood actor dating a homeless person. There's lots of socioeconomic factors, there's family factors, religious factors, maybe you've been friends with them before, so you have that good foundational connection. Maybe you share common interests. Maybe you just have the physical attraction to them. People in relationships just being physically attracted to somebody, not necessarily their personality. So there's so many different factors. Being so honed in on that feeling that we want in ROCD is very problematic. And yeah, that's why it's important to manage the expectations of it. You don't get people in 30-year, 40-year relationships who are constantly feeling in love. The feelings of love, they're going to, more than likely, even without somebody with ROCD, they're going to be fading within the first 6 months to a year of being together, right? And if with those lack of feelings of love that people experience were important, then everybody would be breaking up after 6 months to a year, because there's a lack of feelings there. But it doesn't always happen. People will still stay with each other even after these feelings gradually come down, because the expectation there is that they don't always have to be in love. And with OCD, we're sort of tuned into that expectation to always feel love. So yeah, lowering expectations with ROCD is going to be so important. It's about maintaining your part of the deal in the relationship, even when it feels like you don't want to do that. And then breaking down the fears of living a lie. What if I'm just using this person? What if it feels wrong? All of that's going to have to be worn, because whether that's in the relationship or not, those feelings are going to be there. You can't get on a flight from France to Spain and be in a different situation and expect your brain to be different. It just doesn't happen. Those belief systems are gonna follow you everywhere. So that's why looking at the worst case scenario is so bad. Even if I was living a lie, even if I was in the wrong relationship, even if I didn't feel love, that's why you have to do it, because there's uncertainty there. And the only way to cushion that blow of the uncertainty is to really look at the worst case scenario. Okay, so looking at the expectations in ROCD is so important. I know it can be, very unfair and sudden to feel like you're not suddenly feeling head over heels for your partner or how you were beforehand. But like I said before, we have to adjust, we have to adapt. OCD is set in, our life has changed, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for the better, because of all the principles you can learn in the long run. So there is many benefits to that happening, of course. But yeah, we just have to manage that. Don't lament it. Don't think why me, and think, how can I really look at my beliefs here and have more realistic expectations in my relationships.